Hey, song. Hey guys, thanks for listening to another episode of Beer Me 3. I'm here with Rick, myself, Miguel. Sorry, I said I was going to introduce myself and then okay, I already mixed it all up. Anyways, doesn't matter. How's it going, Rick? You doing all right, man?
Doing good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How's your week been going? It's been a week since we talked, right?
Yeah, it's been going well. Can't complain. It's creeping up to Florida summer right now, so it's starting to get hot. But
Florida, yeah, it is getting hot out over here in South Texas as well. The mosquitoes, man. What's your mosquito bite count right now?
Actually, 0.
What? There's no mosquitoes in Florida?
Well, depends where you are. I mean, we're in Jacksonville, and the St. Johns River is maybe 7 blocks that way. So we get nice breezes here, and because of that, honestly, the mosquito issue right where I am right now isn't too bad. But I've only lived here 6 months, so we will see. Huh. But when I was in Gainesville and Orlando, it was a lot worse. So,
well, I went for a walk with my wife just before the podcast, and I've never seen her move so fast because of the mosquitoes, and she's very pregnant right now. We just entered the 3rd trimester. Shout out to her. And we walked a mile pretty quickly than our normal walk time, so I was very proud of her. But I came back with a couple bites, man. They get pretty big, and the thing is, they bite through my shirt. So I'm wearing a cotton shirt, but then I'm also wearing that Under Armour. Bite. They don't care. I don't know if it's a thing with like Texas mosquitoes or something like that, but they don't care.
Everything's bigger in Texas, right? So mosquitoes included.
That's what I hear. All right, so the 3 beers we decided to cover this week. We have one right here. Old Rasputin. How do you say this beer? Because I keep saying it different ways.
Well, I'm a lot whiter than you, so I just say Old Rasputin.
Okay, Old Rasputin. That's actually the
Old Rasputin from North Coast.
Okay. And then we have Dirt Wolf. Dirt Wolf. I consumed all of my Dirt Wolf, so that's already gone.
I don't blame you. It's a double IPA. You want to have it nice and fresh.
Whew, it was delicious. And that's from
Victory Brewing.
Victory Brewing. And then our last one, which was my suggestion, because I figured we have a double IPA. We had a stout. I was like, why not throw a dark English ale in there? Were you able to grab any Hobgoblin?
I was not, unfortunately. So that conversation is going to be a little one-sided.
Oh, okay. Now,
but I'll discuss what I can as I can.
No, it's all good. Have you had Hobgoblin before, though?
I had it once before.
Okay.
So it's not so much me remembering that beer. It's going to be me remembering the style, which is not one I'm as super familiar and an extra special bitter I don't have too often.
All right.
Which I know it's a dark ale on there, but when you actually look it up, it comes up as an ESB. So.
All right. Well, then we'll go in that order. Now, shed some light on why we're calling this the Pauper episode.
Okay, so Pauper Podcast. I'm really putting myself out there with how nerdy I am, but I have been playing Magic the Gathering since I was probably flipping like 10 years old. So, I mean, I grew up with it in the 90s and saw it through all its iterations, and there are a lot of cards out there and a lot of strategies that revolve around very expensive things, of which a kid like me and a guy like me now, I can't justify spending over $100 on a card. Just one card.
Okay, yeah.
So I always, a concept in Magic the Gathering was the idea of a pauper deck, like the Prince and the Pauper. So, instead of having a deck that cost thousands of dollars, you can make a deck that maybe costs $50 to $100 for the whole thing. Similar concept, similar theme, similar strategy, but much more affordable and pretty similar overall. Effective. I mean, honestly, obviously, the more expensive deck would be the better deck. Well, but in terms of the bang for your buck, it's not that bad.
Card. The shiny rare cards. What were those called?
I guess foils.
Foils.
Yeah. Magic didn't start doing those until a couple. I guess I mean, maybe it's like 10 years ago now. At this point, I was in high school and I think I remember the foils start coming out.
I will also display my nerdiness because I also played Magic the Gathering. Me and one of my friends would just get together on a weekend, and I was a big fan of having the worm deck. I don't know why that was my thing, and I put that together. I like attacking with worm cards, and it was just kind of like this thing that was like, oh, Miguel in the worm deck, like that's just like was a thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's going with a theme deck, and I like that too. I have decks like that too. I have some that are strategy based, some that are theme based. Like I said, I've got some that are my Pauper decks. I have a Black Suicide deck that is pretty damn good by my own accord. A true Suicide deck would beat it, but this is a really close comparison. And for how cheap it was to make it, it's so worth it. So long story short, that's where the idea came for this podcast was, there are beers out there that, yes, they might be the best beer on the market. My example to you earlier in the emails was looking at double IPAs. You got up in Vermont, you have Heady Topper from the Alchemist, and out in California, you have Pliny the Elder from Russian River. Both are considered just quintessential, top-of-the-line double IPAs. Hard to come by, a little bit more expensive. But you know what? There are double IPAs that you can find at your local bottle shops that are they just as good? Maybe not, but they're pretty damn close in my book, which is where Dirt Wolf came for me.
The Pliny the Elder, I actually found that one. I saw it several times at my local Specs, and Specs is probably my only go-to. We have a Liquid Town, but those are I'm pretty limited in like where I can find. There's not too many microbreweries. They're starting to slowly pop up, and as somebody that works in water quality, I get a lot of phone calls from local brewers always asking for the magnesium levels, and because they're trying to adjust their water. But I had always seen that, and then when you dropped this on the email, I was like, man, I should have dropped some. And when I went and looked at Specs, I could not find any. Funny story. I went to Specs. I grabbed a 4-pack of the old Rasputin, and then a 4-pack of I'm gonna say it different every time, and a 4-pack of the Dirt Wolf. Now, I'm going through the line, and I'm trying to, and I'm going through the checkout line, and I have my wife with me, and the guy asked us both for IDs, and my wife, we were like gonna buy beer, and then we're gonna go walk, so she didn't have her ID, and he's like, well, it's kind of a big deal. You need to be over 21 to buy beer and stuff like that. And I'm just like, I guess it didn't really hit me because it was like, you see that she's pregnant. Like she's obviously not drinking. And I give him my ID, but he made my wife go wait outside while I bought beer. I thought that was interesting because this guy seems like he's really cool at this local Specs. And for whatever reason, this time he was not. I mean, I'm in there all the time.
I mean, he obviously already saw her. So what's stopping you from just buying it without her being there and just, I mean, she's pregnant. I get it. But still, like doesn't make sense on his part, but whatever.
I get it. You got an ID and blah, blah, blah. I don't even remember the last time I was carded, but that was an interesting little experience because it's like, your pregnant wife has to wait outside. We don't serve her kind here. Okay, I get it. So just, I know we were going to start off with the Dirt Wolf, but I actually poured myself some old Rasputin, and it came out really dark. I'm gonna just put a little picture of that on there, man. It's like,
I mean, it comes out black with like a nice, like chocolate colored head on it. You said you had like 2 fingers worth?
Yeah, it was definitely. Well, yesterday when I poured it, when it was a lot colder, it came out better. And I was using that's a good question. Right now I'm pouring it into a tulip, but I actually poured it in a pint glass yesterday, and it seemed like to have a bigger head of foam yesterday. Yeah.
Well, that makes sense because I mean, a tulip, the way it comes in, it's gonna smaller surface area, so it might be a little smaller, or not. I don't know.
Well, I always wondered because for my wedding, it was like 7 glasses, and they're all different shapes, and it went into detail about like what kind of beers you should put in there. And at that time, I was only like starting to get into craft beer, and so I didn't save the box. That had all the explanations on it, so I have all these like really nice glasses now, but I don't know which beers are most appropriate for which.
Yeah, I mean, different glasses are for different beers. Then you get people that find the new hip glassware to drink in, or some that only like certain glasses. I like tulips myself, but right now the hip one is the Tiku glass, and everyone's got one. But in the end, whatever. I just want my beer.
Well, since I'm drinking this, no, you say it now. How are you saying this beer?
Old Rasputin.
Rasputin. I'm gonna start saying like that. So this old Rasputin, like you said, is from North Coast Brewing, Russian Imperial Stout, 9% ABV. And here I have it's available year round.
Yep.
I want to say I have seen this pretty regularly at my store. Now you compared this to which other beer?
Well, actually, see, this was when I didn't actually have an idea of what made it a pauper beer. I just figured it's widely available. It's year round. You get a good price for a 4-pack, and it's a really good beer.
Yeah, and it's definitely a
I have a
complex
hard
taste. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a Russian Imperial Stout, so if you're comparing it to something, you have Stone Russian Imperial Stout, which again is somewhat widely available, but sometimes hard to find, which is a pretty good beer, but that's cheap as well. And then you have all the big boys. You got Darkness, you have Marshall Zukov from Cigar City, and then I mean every good brewery has some kind of big Russian Imperial Stout that they generally tend to brew.
And this the IBU on this one is at 75. Usually around 65, I'm writing these beers off. I'm just like, yeah, I'm not gonna get that.
Yeah.
This one was pretty good, man. And I thought I drank the Dark English Ale, the Hobgoblin, right before this one. I thought I was gonna throw my palate off more, but either I'm just becoming more of an alcoholic, or maybe I'm actually developing a palate for this. So.
Well, that's part of it. And also, when you drink beers, you generally go in a certain order. If you went from the Russian Imperial Stout to the Hobgoblin, which is an ESB, it would have been completely different for you because you're going from a 9% really strong beer to something that's going to have a more subtle flavor profile. And this would honestly ruin your palate, and it would taste completely different for you. So you definitely want to line your beers up in a certain way.
Okay, that's a good point. So you would start off with, do you start off with something that's more bitter and then work your way down? Not necessarily.
I wouldn't necessarily say bitter. Generally speaking, I look at ABV. I try to finish on the higher ABV, and also the flavors. So you could have a double IPA that's super strong, and then you could also have some kind of barrel-aged beer. I would still probably want to finish on that barrel-aged beer just in terms of the flavors.
Okay.
Although I know, obviously if you go something too hoppy, that can also ruin your palate. So it's really just about the situation you're in and what beers you have and trying to line it up right. And if you really want to do it right, you do, water in between, maybe some dry saltines, try to, wipe your palate clean a little bit.
Right. No, that's a good point. When you smell this beer, did you get hints of coffee? I was debating. I had my wife smelling it. She wasn't drinking it. I had my wife smelling it.
Yeah,
she smelled the coffee immediately. But
see, people get coffee off it. What I think it's coming from is just the roasted, the roastiness of it.
Okay.
And a dark coffee is roasted, so if you're getting all those roasted grains off of it, that roastiness would make it smell kind of like coffee. Because you taste it, and I don't really taste coffee. I just get roasty, maybe a little toast.
Right.
But I would say it's borderline smoky. Like, I always associate smoky with more of a porter than a stout, but it's almost like there's a little bit of smokiness in there. Some oaky and char as it warms up.
Yeah, I'm getting that. Now I will say I don't taste the coffee. It's only when I smell it. Like I smell this like dark roast, but it's a coffee dark roast smell, and I see what you're pointing at.
Yeah,
Super dark though.
Yeah, the smell. Obviously you can have beers that the nose is completely different than the taste, and the nose can be deceiving like that. Like you smell it and you think it's coffee, but it's really just the roast. And then when you taste it and the coffee's not there, you're almost like, well, what the heck? But that's why. It's just there's the differences.
Like the taste is building on me. Like the first sip I had, and this goes back to yesterday. Last evening, I had a sip of this, and it had this almost like medicinal aftertaste. But that comes from the bitterness that I'm talking about. But maybe that's just hitting all the taste buds at once. And then as I kept drinking it kind of went away and became really smooth. And then it became really roasty after a while.
Yeah. Well, that's why, like I said, that's why for another podcast idea, I kind of want to do one where we open up a big beer, like a Russian Imperial Stout or something barrel aged or a barley wine, and sit on it and drink it as it warms, because beers like this they develop immensely. They do so well with a time to warm up and really develop. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They really open up. They just become smooth and just. There's been beers I've had in the past where as you drink them, the taste almost completely changes on you, and it's almost always for the better. Because a beer like this should be more cellar temp almost, not even refrigerated temp, not that cold.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's a big Imperial Stout. It's just a big beer. It's almost more, it's supposed to be like maybe, I don't know, in the 50s.
Okay. Huh.
Not necessarily the upper 30s or lower 40s.
So this would definitely not be one of those beers that you would get like at Twin Peaks where they serve it like, what, -29?
Oh yeah, yeah. I doubt they'd even have it. If they did, I mean, you'd be ruining that beer having it that cold. Jeez
Yeah.
Louise.
Twin Peaks, man. That's where that biker fight was at. I don't know if you heard about it on the news.
Oh yeah, I'm on Reddit enough. I heard about it.
Okay. Yeah, there's and this is in Waco, Texas. I mean, that's only 3 hours from me, 2 hours.
Yeah. Twin Peaks, isn't that supposed to be like a Hooters type restaurant?
Basically, yeah, they have really cold beer, and all the women walk around really slutty.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically the concept there. Well, I guess that's the same with Hooters.
Hooters and Tilted Kilt or Twisted Kilt or something is another one.
You know, it's a very classy high-end joint, and you should definitely go there. But yeah, it was the Banditos and I don't know who else. But anyways, there's this other thing that got put out of hundreds of Banditos are coming down for war. Watch out. Highways are closed. I was like, who's supplying us this information? I don't want to look at this. I'm looking on Beer Advocate, and they gave it a score of a 96, and that's out of about 11,000 ratings around there.
Yeah, which is, I mean, that's pretty big for such a easy to for an easy to find beer. You know, usually, you know, my friends and I always joke about it. Just the rare, you know, sometimes we'll be drinking a beer and you go, "Ooh, man, it tastes so rare." Just as a joke, because I mean, some people are that way. They just so much of it comes down to is how rare is the beer. Oh, if you can find it at Publix or you can find it at your supermarket, and if it's an easy to find bottle, it's not worth anything. So, but that's why I always the idea for the Pauper thing came up to me because I don't care. I'll drink cheap beer if it's good. I don't care. The reputation, obviously, I'll let that swing a certain way with me. If it's got a reputation, that means I'm more likely to try it. But you know, something like Old Rasputin still had a reputation among people as being really good for how available it was. I mean, North Coast does a good job with it. A question I have for you is, how much was it for you when you bought it?
It was around $10.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's about what I've seen it here. I've seen it from $9 to $12 overall.
That's what it was.
And I mean, so let's say average $10. So $10 for a 4-pack. That's $2.50 for a beer. That's phenomenal for how good that beer is.
Yeah. And tell you the truth, it's not. If you had not suggested this beer, it wouldn't be a beer that I would necessarily drop to. And I have a tendency to go to my comfort beers. I'm like, I feel like I'm verging out whenever I go to like other dark ales. But this one, man, took me definitely for a loop, man. I was very impressed with the when, like I said, that first taste was it was a medicinal aftertaste, and I was just like, oh man, that's what I expect. But then as I drank it more, that roastiness, and then it just like it hits you. It's just a complex and very nice beer, and like you said, $2.50 a bottle. You can't beat this deal, man.
Yeah. Now, did you have that medicinal aftertaste now drinking it, or was that only that first time?
That was only that first time, and I think because this time I drank the Hobgoblin prior to this, and it took away, or maybe it like sensitized or desensitized, I should say, my taste buds.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it could be anything. Could have been the food you ate tonight versus last time you ate it. It really could be any of those. So that's pretty cool. Now, the neat part about what North Coast does is with some of these core beers, notably the only two I've seen are Old Rasputin, and then North Coast has an old ale called Old Stock Ale. But for both of them, once a year they release. Well, I think Old Rasputin is once a year. Old Stock Ale is every 2 years, but they do a barrel aged version.
Oh, okay.
So it's, I don't know if it's a 750 or a 500 mil off the top of my head for Old Rasputin, but it's a bourbon barrel aged version of it.
Now, I did see on Beer Advocate where they said the nitro version of this is better than the bottle.
I mean, that's in the eye of the beholder. Myself, I'm not the biggest nitro fan. I know it gives it a smoother, creamier mouthfeel, and it definitely changes the flavor a little bit. I don't know. I just like my beer how it's supposed to be, I guess. I'm just not the biggest fan of nitro. That's just my own personal opinion.
How about this guy on
the
front?
But I have heard a lot of people say it. Yeah, I guess that's Rasputin himself, but I hear Rasputin, I think of the bad guy from Hellboy, so I don't know if it's supposed to be the same Rasputin or not.
It almost looks like a priest giving the sign of the cross, like that's what he's about to do.
Yeah,
something like that.
Maybe I don't really know the history of it, so I can't really say
no,
much.
Me either. And when I look into Russian, and when I was looking this up, it does say like brewed in the way of 17th century English brewers. Mm-hmm. And they definitely supplied Catherine the Great at the time when they were looking for other beers and stuff like that. I took a little bit of history to check it out just a little more, because at one point this is part of the start of IPAs, and that's kind of what started into the development of IPAs at this point. Whenever they were looking at how this, at the time that they made beers in this style. Now, this beer itself, of course, wasn't brewed in the 17th century. That'd be funny.
Well, yeah.
But that kind of goes back to what I was talking about last week, that they keep going. You're always going to have a different methodology for making beer and brewing, and you're going to keep on finding like the next thing and the next thing and the next thing until it eventually leads to, I don't know, whatever caveman drank.
Oh man, I was listening to something about that once, what they drank. It was God, they would like chew some kind of, oh my God, some kind of root or grain. They would actually chew it and then kind of spit it all out and let it sit there, because the idea was the enzymes in your own mouth would help break down the sugars in whatever root or grain or whatever it was. And it would actually ferment and make it alcoholic, naturally, because there's microbes in the air. And
right.
That was kind of the beginning of it. And then there was another, I don't know if it was a podcast or documentary I was watching, but basically it was kind of talking about, the cradle of civilization, or, the beginning of civilization is really the advent of agriculture. And the whole idea originally was, some people have thought, well, it's just so you can settle down, if you can grow your own crops, you don't have to be looking for food all the time. But this most recent, I don't know if it was a study or book or what it was talking about, it actually was rooted to alcohol production, was because if you can grow your own grains or grow what you want for it, you can make alcohol whenever you want. And that the predecessor to beer was kind of it. Nice. Which was kind of interesting. It was a funny, look at history that, we kind of settled down so we can make alcohol.
Okay, I was looking at it. That's funny. Yeah. Everything leads back to it's like the pinnacle of civilization. Like, one of the greatest movements in it is when we discovered alcohol.
Yeah.
Have you seen that apparently Family Guy where they discover alcohol and they're Irish?
Oh yeah, they were like what, a futuristic society, and then somebody invented whiskey and went to hell. Yep.
So I like the top of this whole reference is brewed in the tradition of the 18th century English brewers who supplied the Russian court of Catherine the Great. I knew I read it somewhere and I was looking for it, and it's at the tip of the bottle because I threw the box away like me. It develops a cult following wherever it goes. It's a rich, intense brew, blah, 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 blah. So looking back at Catherine the Great, this is a little excerpt taken out of IPA brewing techniques, recipes, and the evolution of India Pale Ale, or IPAs. As in the case with much of English brewing history, politics played a significant role in the successes and failures of the export business to Russia and the Baltics. In 1766, Catherine the Great and England signed a formal commercial treaty that allowed for an increase in beer shipments to St. Petersburg. So that kind of plays into the history of that. And at that time, that was the methodology that they're using. And that's the most I could find from for this beer. As far as the recipe and stuff like that, they kind of keep it discreet. They don't really release too much more on like the hops that go into this and stuff like that. Or at least I couldn't find anything on it.
Yeah, that's something I should look up more often, and I don't. But for something, honestly, like a Russian Imperial Stout, I'm not really worried about what hops went into it, because I'm not looking at it for a hop. I'm not looking at that beer for the hop profile. I mean, I'm just looking at it for the big, malty, roasty beer that it is.
What was it? I was impressed by the hints of what I smell is a coffee, and most of the time I stay away from, like I said, stouts were not on my like favorite list. So
okay, I'll keep that in mind for the future.
No. But I favorite this stout a lot. Like this is my like segue into the stout world. Probably I'm just like, oh, wow, what have I been missing out on? It was just like this door opened up, and I'm like, what else is out there that I don't know? Rick, show me the way. Oh,
I will. I'm happy I popped that cherry for you, because I have been a fan of stouts since I started drinking. When I started really getting into beer, Guinness was an easily available and somewhat flavorful beer for me. So I drank a lot of Guinness when I first started drinking alcohol, and from there, just once I realized Guinness was just an okay, English dry stout. Dry stout. I could have these other stouts that are way more flavorful and big, and they're absolutely delicious. Of course, I'll drink that. So
Do you think the nitro kind of normalizes beers across the board, basically almost making them relatable, but just hints of the different tastes, like almost make them all taste the same is what I'm kind of like hinting towards. Like,
Yeah, that's kind of why I don't like them, because it just makes it almost more homogenous. And I'm sure people would completely disagree with me. And
mhm.
to that, I say that's fine, because since I don't really like them that much for the mouthfeel and taste, I stay away from them. So I'm not an expert on it in any way, shape, or form. But yeah, every time I've had them, it just meshes the flavors together too much, so that you're just getting too much of that creamy mouthfeel and creamy taste from the nitro that you just end up losing what made that beer special. But I've heard people say great things about Old Rasputin on nitro and a few others. So
Yeah,
I can't say
definitely
too much until I've had it.
Yeah, when I posted this on Instagram, a lot of people, liked it, but also commented that this is one of their favorite Russian stouts. So that was a really good beer. So I'm glad I tried it.
Yeah, and I will say, honestly, if you like barrel-aged things, if you like anything aged in bourbon or anything like that, look out for the barrel-aged version. It's really good. I've been a big fan of it. But, my friends and I have always – the one thing that bugs us about North Coast is you look at Old Rasputin, it's like $10 a 4-pack. And then the barrel-aged version, again, I don't know if it's 500 or 750 mils, but the big bottle of it is, God, it's like 22 to 25 bucks
That
for a
sounds
barrel.
about right. Yeah.
Which it's just a huge markup considering the base stout is so cheap. And it bugs me a little bit, but not enough to not buy it, because I buy it every year when it comes out, because it is a tasty beer. But it's not one I buy a lot of. I buy one, enjoy it, move on. But
It's like, the DLC content, or whatever. Pay extra for.
Yeah. And normally I don't mind that for barrel-aged beers. It's just that the base is so much cheaper by comparison. But
that's really good.
Either way, like I said, if you see it, buy it in a heartbeat, because it's really good.
I'll definitely try it out, man. All right, man. Let's move on to our darkly heroic Dirt Wolf, if you will.
Yeah, you posted the whole story about what Dirt Wolf is, right? I don't even remember what it was.
I was taking a look at the history, and like I said, Victory Brewing definitely provided more information on their beer in terms of the hops they go to and stuff like that. So some of this was just cut and paste from their website, but I do enjoy reading where, I guess, origins come from and stuff like that. And the name Humulus lupulus, which is the name given to the hops, are said to have empowered brews with bite and character since the 11th century. And this is where they take the name from, Dirt Wolf. Dirt Wolf comes from, and I looked at the origins of that because I thought that was interesting. I lost it on here. But that's what it breaks down to. And the words dirt come from, I guess, humulus, and then lupulus actually means wolf, and they put them together, and that's how you get Dirt Wolf. So that's like the origins from that and stuff like that. But double IPAs, very, very bitter. What was this one? IBU on this one was up there too.
I don't have it in front of me.
Let me look it up. I want to say it was at like a 70, but that's just me talking off my ass right now.
Yeah, I'm on Beer Advocate. I don't see it off the top of the page.
Yeah, I want to say it was around. Oh, well, I actually went to their website, so here I am. Let's see, Victory Brewing, 8.7%, and I guess it's not on here. I saw it somewhere, but
yeah, it's up there. I mean, it's a double IPA. It's going to be a little bitter, but
and they have the pairings. I actually had it with Whataburger. I was out Ubering, and my last Uber of the night decided to buy me Whataburger, and I was like, hell yeah! Come home, and I was like, oh dude, I have Dirt Wolf, and I had done this research, and I remembered it paired up well with the burger, and it went fantastic with my Whataburger. It was nice.
Yeah, IPAs and double IPAs tend to just really go well with a lot of things.
Have you ever had Whataburger? No,
I have not.
I don't remember.
They're in Florida from last time I checked.
Oh, really?
I think there's one.
That.
I could have sworn I saw one in Florida.
I'm impressed if there is one over there. That's I thought it was a Texas thing, but maybe they're.
I'm not a burger guy though. I hate to admit it.
Wait. Are you vegan?
No. I'd rather have chicken than a burger.
Oh, okay.
I'm just not a burger guy. Like, we got Five Guys and Steak and Shake down here in the South, and we were out in California, and I did a In-N-Out burger, and all of them across the board. They're all good. Don't get me wrong. They're not bad, but I would just rather have a chicken sandwich or something. I'm just
I've had those too, yeah.
Not a burger guy.
You just need to have some real Whataburger, maybe. Maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, I suppose.
This paired up well with that. I'm just starting to get into pairing up beers with food, and that's for somewhat has been. Let me go back a little bit. The last time, or originally, and this was like this has to have been like 4 years ago when I first moved down here to South Texas, and I had a friend come down, and he was drinking Bud Light with his like nachos, and he was like, "Don't you want a beer with your nachos?" And I was like, "Okay," and I had one. I hated it. I could not do it. And it was one of those things like I was just kind of like toughing it out to the end. I was just like, man, this is a horrible meal right now because of this beer right now. And so ever since then, I've been somewhat scarred because I'm scared of pairing up beers for that reason. So it's like when I'm eating, I'll just have water and then I go back to drinking.
Yeah.
So this was kind of like revisiting that, and it worked out really well. Like I definitely enjoyed this beer with my burger. And that's kind of one of the first times that's happened. And so it's made to go with, like, it looks like barbecue, so maybe some barbecue chicken, and you could try that with that. I don't know if you've actually paired this up with anything.
I mean, I have and I haven't, and I haven't really gone on my way too much. I just try to stay aware of what I'm eating versus what I'm drinking. Like if I'm having something on the spicier side, I tend to stick away from the old Rasputins and the barrel-aged beers because the spiciness just ruins those beers, and they just do not complement each other very well. Whereas tonight, for instance, I had chili. A Dirt Wolf went great with it. A double IPA with something that had a little bit of a kick to it. It worked very well, at least for me.
Okay.
So
one thing I saw about Dirt Wolf is that they use 2-row malts, and I try not to. As we're doing this podcast, I'm developing more of, I guess, learning the jargon that's used and stuff like that. So you have 2-row malts versus 6-row, and that's kind of like the difference there. And what I found was, in general, 6-row malted barley has more protein and enzyme content than 2-row malted barley. So is thinner than 2-row malt and contains less carbohydrate. And so, that just kind of adds to the complexity of taste. And when you're messing with that kind of stuff, you're kind of like tinkering around with that kind of stuff. So that's for like some serious brewers and stuff. But you said you're a home brewer, and my friend is a brewer.
I wouldn't call myself a home brewer. I'm a guy who likes beer, and I've brewed at home a couple times.
There you go. That makes you a home brewer, bro. Okay.
Oh man, but it's hard to call myself that when I know people like my friend Mike in Gainesville has brewed a couple times, and he is more than a couple times, and he makes some good stuff, but he doesn't do it that often. But I know a guy in Gainesville named Zach, and I mean, his graduate work has been in basically brewing. He works at a home brew store, and he's been home brewing for a long time, and he knows what he's doing. Like when you read these, when you're looking at like hop profiles and it's talking about like the alpha acids versus other acids, like he understands all that. He knows brewing more than anyone I could know off the top of my head. So if you're
shout out to Mike in Gainesville, bro.
Or no, this is Zach.
Oh, shout out to Zach in Gainesville.
Yeah, like 2-row versus 6-row malt. He would know the difference off the top of his head right now, passing in conversation. Whereas you and me just go, oh, okay.
So now, has Dirt Wolf reminded you? Okay, well, I should ask, what other beer has Dirt Wolf reminded you of? I ask you that because personally, it reminded me of Shock Top, like the brand name Shock Top. So you have Shock Top, and if you were to get like Shock Top's a generic bottom, it's like bottom level, and then if you were to upgrade, you would eventually get to Dirt Wolf. That's how I felt because I got those hits of citrus in there.
Yeah,
and,
so for me,
like
I would say like 3 Floyd Zombie Dust, which is an all Citra pale ale. So the citrus is really, especially is coming from the Citra hop. Or when I've had things like Heady Topper, which is another huge, great big double IPA, beers like that really focus on the Citra hops. That's that citrus coming through, but there's definitely a little bit of a piney, like pine cone type flavor to it.
The piney taste would hit me at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, which I got out of so Russian River has Pliny the Elder, which is a pine bomb. I mean, it's a tree, but they make a regular IPA called Blind Pig, which was a little bit more subtle. And so yeah, Dirt Wolf was kind of like zombie dust meets a little bit of blind pig, but more citra than pine for me. I get a lot more citrus, but I don't know. It's a beer on its own. I mean, I'm still getting into double IPAs. There's a lot I haven't had yet, and I'm always eager to try more. But yeah, I got more citrus.
Definitely that earthy, mildly floral taste to it. I had definitely trying to identify that when I drink it, but it's the citrus that was overbearing of all the other flavors in there. I do like reading all the different hops that they had. They have like whole flower citra and Chinook. Chinook for me, I don't know. Did you ever play Army Men when you were like on N64? Wasn't there a helicopter called a Chinook?
Oh, like the Toy Story Army Men game?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was kind of like that. And it had like the double propellers. It was one of those helicopters with the double propellers on it.
Yeah, I kind of remember that.
That was called a Chinook. And so when I look at the Chinook, I got those memories back too. And so like I'm drinking this like beer that's 8.9%.
Yeah, I read 8.7. Close enough.
8.7. So 8.7, and then I'm having these memories of Army Men. So it was a nice little Saturday. And then my wife got off of work and comes back and finds me basically just inebriated. I was like, hey, let's go get Asian food.
Can't complain with that at that point.
Oh man.
Yeah, but no, it's a good beer. It's widely available. It's a year-round beer. It's not hard to find, and actually, I can find this cheaper than Rasputin. I mean, in Jacksonville, when I bought it last week, I found it for $8 a 4-pack.
Okay, see, for me, both of these beers were around the same price.
Okay,
Rasputin as well as the Dirt Wolf. Those hit the same price. It was like $9.87. And
I've bought Dirt Wolf at that more expensive price. So I don't know if it's just I'm finding cheaper beer in Jack's or what, but. I mean, the fact that I'm finding it for $8, $7.99 for a 4-pack. I mean, you can't beat $2 for one of these beers. I mean,
oh yeah, that's definitely good, man.
Oh, I would pay $6-7 for a pint of this at a bar.
Right? Yeah, I would too. Like if we were, and I'm pretty sure I did try one of these when I was at on my bachelor party. But at that time, I was just like, yeah, bring it on, man. But here we are finding it at Specs for this price. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah. And I mean, it's generally pretty fresh. I mean, I've been places where it's sat on the shelf though, and you go to it and it's old. I won't say where I found it. It wasn't Jacksonville, but I've seen it sitting on the shelf before. And, that is disheartening because then, if you come in to buy that beer and you're not paying attention, you're going home with an old beer, which with something like this, you want it fresh.
One thing I see about going back to Chinook is I like when I read, it was bred by crossing a Petham Golding and the USDA 63012 male. Just like, oh, okay. Yeah. For me, as like a non-expert brewer, I mean, I'm just like, but like you said, probably like Zach in Gainesville is just like, oh, for real? Like,
yeah. Oh, I know that. I know that strain. That's in my backyard.
But he did hint towards like being like the alpha acids and stuff like that. And the Chinook is a high alpha acid hop with a wonderful herbal, almost smoky character, and those characteristics definitely came out when I was drinking Dirt Wolf. I mean, the Dirt Wolf, and like that floral smell came out as well. But it definitely breaks down that alpha acid is 12 to 14% / and then beta acid is 3 to 4%.
Right, which I mean,
reading these things makes me want to get into it. As a biologist / chemist, makes me want to get into brewing now because I'm like, man, I didn't realize. So when I was Googling Chinook, I saw all these vendors for like hops I can buy online and stuff like that. Again, just brought into this whole new world. I'm just like, man, why am I not brewing at home right now?
Yeah, well, I'll say if you want to start brewing at home, start small. I have a 1-gallon kit that I have. It's a nice way to start. I mean, you could do, a lot of people do the 5-gallon. I've kind of seen. That's just a lot more capital investment, if you will. It's just a lot more to buy and get into, and until you hone your skills, the nice part about 1 gallon is if I mess up a batch, it's not that much I wasted, not that much time, that much effort, not that much money. Agree. I mean, recently I took a 1-gallon growler from a brewery because I realized all my brewing equipment fits, like the 1-gallon jug I have is basically a growler jug. So what I've been doing the past few times that I've brewed is I'll brew one day, and then the next day I brew again. So I'll brew 2 1-gallon batches at the same time, and I just make them a little different. Like my last batch was I did an oatmeal stout, and one was cinnamon, one was vanilla.
And so that way it can be so you said similar. Oatmeal stout. Do you use actual oatmeal when you put that in there?
Well, not oatmeal, but there's oats in it.
Okay. No, I'm not like talking from like a very amateur
Yeah.
standpoint here. So the oats you take, and did you like go to the grocery store and purchase these oats?
No, no, no. So it was every time I've brewed, it was from going to the store in Gainesville, Florida. It's called a Hogtown craft beer. I don't know. If you look for Hogtown in Gainesville, you find it. It's a craft beer store, so they actually have a climate controlled room you go into, and they have all their grains and malts in there. And you go in, and there's a scale and a scooper and bags. You go in and just do what you need to.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we have something. It's not so much that, but that's interesting. And
Yeah, I mean, you got to break the grains up because you got to, you want to increase the surface area because if you're breaking the grains up, you get increased surface area, so therefore more sugars and enzymes and all that being released. So,
what additional ingredients did you use with your with this batch with the oatmeal?
so it was just the malted, all the malted grains and the oats. So you can do all grain or you can do extract, and I do all grain because I kind of like it. It feels more down to earth, like what brewing should be.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
So you basically, I mean, it's like making a tea. You throw it all into water at a certain temperature and let it steep for an hour just to extract all the good stuff out of it, strain it, and then you have your, I guess it's considered your wort at that point, and then you boil it. And during the 1 hour boil, you add hops to it. I don't know how people do whole hops or anything. I just have, generally people just use the little pellets. So I had these little bags of pellets. I
was running to the pellets when I was looking online. Yeah, I saw those.
And then you, based on the whatever, I just look up recipes online when I've done it, and then you have them bagged individually so you know when to add them, because you do them beginning, middle, or end based on what you want. Do you want it bitter? Do you want the aroma? Do you want the flavor? And so I'm trying to think of how I did it. For the cinnamon batch, I just took a powdered cinnamon, what you would use for baking, just added like a teaspoon or maybe a couple teaspoons at the end of the boil. And for the vanilla, I just added vanilla extracts, I think right before I put it into the fermenter. So after the boil, once it cooled down a bit, added some vanilla extract. Obviously, you could do things like adding whole cinnamon sticks, whole vanilla beans. That gets into a whole new thing because you have to sterilize those if you're going to use those. But what most people do is put them in vodka, like you would make a vanilla extract or cinnamon extract. You just throw it in a thing of vodka, sterilizes it, and also extracts the flavors. And what I've read other people doing was, let's use cinnamon, for example, or even vanilla. Both would work. Take a vial, you put your cinnamon or vanilla stick in, and then you add bourbon to it. Bourbon will sterilize it, and then instead of just pulling the sticks of vanilla and cinnamon out, you just pour the whole thing, bourbon and all, right before you bottle. I forget the step exactly when you do it. I haven't done it in a while. But that way, not only do you get the cinnamon and vanilla flavors, you get the bourbon as well. It's just kind of a cheap way of doing like the barrel aging type process of adding that bourbon flavor.
At different points when you open it up, are you risking like contamination?
Okay, so yeah. So basically, up until your boil, you can be a little bit more loosey-goosey with it. But me being, a microbiologist, scientist, I'm not that way. I'm somebody who I basically pour myself a little bowl of either vodka or isopropyl alcohol, and I'm constantly dipping my fingers into it and keeping my fingers clean. And I clean the whole kitchen every step of the way.
Nice.
Okay. So yeah, up until your boil, you don't have to be too careful, but I'm still careful. During your boil, you're perfectly fine. And then once you're done your boil, you got to be careful. So I put a lid on it, put it in a sink full of ice and cool it down. And then basically throw it right in the fermenter and pitch some yeast into it and put a little cap onto it. And then I don't open it, period. It's closed until I'm ready to bottle it. And when I bottle it, I'm quick about it and try to be as efficient as possible. And one way I do it is I don't do 12-ounce bottles. I bought one case of 1 liter swing caps. So that way when I go to fill my bottles, I'm just a little quicker with it. I'm not doing a bottle and trying to fiddle with putting a cap onto it. I'm just fill it, close the swing cap, fill it, close the swing cap. It's a little quicker.
You reminded me of the scene from Breaking Bad. Isn't
Hank Schrader?
Yeah, isn't he a home brewer initially?
He is, and he's got one of those ones. It's just like a handle, and you pull it down, and it puts the cap onto it. But I look at when I see him doing it, I think he's real loose with his technique, personally.
Yeah.
But then again, in that a little bit later, a bunch of bottles were exploding on him, and when he was kind of having his PTSD after he got attacked at one point, so he thought people were shooting at him. So maybe that was contamination, and some excess growth causing pressure buildup, or it could have been too much sugar. It could have been a couple things.
Man, Hank got a bad rap, bro. I feel like I respected Hank a lot, and at first I was like, man, this guy's kind of a douchebag, but
yeah.
At the end of the show, I'm like, man, Hank's a good guy.
Yeah, so I watched it a few years ago with my friends, right when season 5 was happening, and watched all the way up through it and finished the show in like a month or two. And it was awesome. Couldn't wait to watch it again, but didn't. And then my fiance a little bit ago said she wanted to watch it, and I was like, oh yes, this is the time, because I've been looking forward to rewatching it, knowing what's going to happen, because you pick up on different things.
Oh yeah, and, definitely, man.
Yeah, the first time you watch it, you're kind of like, man, I guess because you want to root for Walt. You do. You want to root for Walt. He's the main character, but I mean, he's Heisenberg, and he's an absolute monster. And you kind of hate, but the first time you watch it, you feel like you need to root for him, so you kind of hate Hank. And then on the second watch through, though, the whole time I'm watching it, you're just like, oh, poor Hank.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what makes it a really good show, is that it does that flip on you, especially and just like you said, when you're watching it the second time, same thing. I don't know how many times I've seen the season finale, and once I've seen an episode of something, I'm not one to go back and watch. I'm just like, I give up on it. But I've watched it at least 10 times, at the least 10 times. But
Felina is a good episode, and we actually just this past weekend we watched the whole second half of season 5. So season 5B or whatever you want to call it. We watched the whole that was literally yesterday. That was Sunday for us. Was that whole season?
Nice.
We woke up. We woke up and just flipping. We just worked right through it, and it was an epic day. But I remember after I watched the whole season, the whole show, I remember looking back at it and going, you know what, man, season 4 was the best. The lead up with Gus, that was the best. Season 5 was great, but it was not the same as season 4. But on a second watch through, man, season 5 as a whole kicked butt. It was just so good.
Yeah.
4 and 5 combined were just amazing.
Have you caught any of the spinoffs?
Better Call Saul, I have not.
Yeah,
I've been meaning to, but the reason why I was waiting was I wanted to rewatch Breaking Bad with Colleen. So I was like, all right, I'll wait. Let me watch it with her, and then I'll start doing Better Call Saul. So I plan on starting Better Call Saul within the next week or two.
My wife started the series with me, and then she dropped off. She said it got boring. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, the greatest.
Yeah, well, Breaking Bad left a big hole, I guess, and it had Better Call Saul had big shoes to fill, and it's different though. It's a different main character, so you have to kind of go into it that way, expecting it's not going to be the same, but it's the same universe and similar. And everything I've read has been, it definitely started out a little slow, but when you go back to Breaking Bad did too. Granted, Walt kind of killed 2 people in the first episode, and you go, wow, that's pretty intense. It went from 0 to 50 pretty damn quick, but I heard Better Call Saul does do a pretty good job and gets pretty
it's supposed to be definitely entertaining. I definitely look forward to that.
Yeah.
Well, hey, man, I'm going to take a quick little bathroom break and grab a Hobgoblin, and then we can review that one. We'll finish off there.
Good.
Meantime, I'm going to play a little bit of our makeshift, this is a live version of our makeshift theme song. Yeah, and I'll return just in a bit. We won't play the whole thing. This song though, right?
I actually couldn't hear it when you played it just now, or the intro. Last
Noted,
time, last week when you did it, it was coming right through my headset. This week I couldn't hear anything.
Oh, well, these are really good notes to make at the very beginning of the show, my friend.
Yeah, my bad.
Let's see here.
Like you said you were gonna play the song, and then all of a sudden I noticed we were live, so I figured you just didn't play it.
This guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Might be.
And this is on our live recording, but we'll definitely edit some of this out. But
Yeah.
I'm curious. Can you hear it right here?
I'm actually, and I can hear myself as well. So I hear the song, but I do hear myself as I talk. Whereas before I wasn't hearing myself.
Okay. See, I changed that up a little bit. Yeah. How about this?
Check. Yeah, I hear myself, but a little bit. It's just weird because it's that slight delay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, know
You
that
can
there's
edit
a
this.
song playing here.
Yeah. Yeah, the bathroom break is the break.
The
That's
bathroom
the
break.
edit point.
Yeah, well, there's a live song playing on this side. I'm surprised you couldn't hear it over there. I'm checking all my levels and stuff on here. Looks like this music jamming
now.
right here.
Oh,
Hear that?
it. Yeah.
Okay. You're killing me, Rick. Oh man, let's see. This guy faded out. Well, maybe it was just really low. All right, so our next beer, we're getting the show on this one. You know what? I went to go grab a beer. My wife's watching all these natural birth videos because I don't know if you know, we're entering the third trimester, like I said, and she wants to have a natural birth. So we're totally against. It's not we. Some of us do not want to go to a hospital to have the baby. So I'm like, okay, well, this is out of my network on my insurance, but whatever you want. So we've been looking at birthing methods, and she's actually committed to having it naturally with the midwife and everything. So I thought that was interesting. She's going through. The thing is, sometimes I'll open up my iPad, and there's some YouTube videos of just like crazy birthing videos, and I'm just like, holy crap, what is this right now? Because she'll hit pause and then close it. And just the pause button closes the lid. And so when I open up the iPad cover, it's like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah, so I have to, okay, so if we're going to talk about this kind of stuff. So I was on Reddit the other day, and I don't remember, it was an Ask Reddit thread, and it had to do with like what's the most messed up thing your parents ever like said or did to you?
All right.
And somebody had said that when they were a child, their mom played a birthing video in reverse, saying that's what happens to bad kids.
What? Why? Oh my goodness.
I won't lie. I read that at work, and I was dying. I was laughing so hard, but trying to keep it silent. The secretary
really
goes,
think about that. So the baby's going back into the woman. Jeez. That's your punishment. I'm looking at her face right now. She's looking at a birthing video right now. Like, just in shock.
It was horrible. Like, I mean, that's just such a horrible thing to say to a kid, but I can't be too upset because it is like the funniest thing I read all day.
Funny.
I mean,
well, think about it. Maybe the mom like was laughing her ass off when she did that.
Yeah, but
that's pretty sick. I wonder how old he was. I think he didn't state the age on there because
I think they said they were fairly young, but I mean, I don't know.
They show everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're looking at everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, clearly the kid was old enough to remember it from the post on Reddit, unless he made the whole thing up, which is the internet. So,
oh, internet,
fake internet points. So it could be totally fake.
It might be not. So Hobgoblin, you've said you've had this once, right?
Yeah, I had it once back when I was being more adventurous of just like, okay, so how you said earlier, how you tend to do your, what was it, your comfort beers, your fallback beers.
Yeah.
I can tend to be that way, but I definitely had a moment when I first started getting into craft beer where it just was, I would go to someplace and just buy something.
Okay.
Buy a mix 6, buy a random 4-pack, and I thought the Goblin looked kind of cool, so I said, all right, screw it, and I bought it.
Yeah,
So
dude.
I've been there where I've tried that, but I only tried it once and it was years ago.
For dark English ale, I feel like this one's done well, and it has an 85 on Beer Advocate, and this is from Witchwood Brewing Company. Kind of looking around here, and that's I tend to. Would you consider this an import because it comes from New England? I mean, basically, always differentiate between stuff like that, you know.
I mean, I wouldn't consider an import if it's from our country.
So, well, this one, no, I'm sorry, this one comes from the United Kingdom, then. So,
Oh yeah, then I would totally consider it an import.
well, you know what? Then I have the tendency to like imports, especially from like the United Kingdom or British. Like that's Boddington's falls under that, somewhere like that. But
Yeah, I definitely liked Boddington's for a while when I was, again, back when I liked Guinness and I was slowly, when I first started drinking, it was let me get away from just, Budweiser, Coors, Miller. Let me get away from the big companies. So it was Guinness, and I would go someplace and they'd have Boddington's, and I would try that, and I really liked it back in the day.
Yeah, I was a big Bud Light Lime fan. That was like year one of grad school there. I'm like, yeah, Bud Light Lime.
That's my fiance still. I love her, but
no, it's good. It's a good beer.
I wish she didn't love it.
Yeah, my wife doesn't drink beer at all, though. You know, one beer she does like is it's the Ruby Red. Which one am I talking about here? Shiner Ruby Red. Do you get Shiner Ruby Red over there? Jacksonville?
I mean, maybe, but it's not something I'm not looking for Shiner, so I'm not paying attention to it.
Okay. So you do have Shiner, though. I wondered that because the brewery's only not too far away from here. Where I'm
pretty sure I've seen Shiner. I mean,
Shiner has some good varieties to it, man. Now, the base Shiner, I've kind of gotten away from that. Sometimes that's the only thing on tap. I'm like, this is a decent beer.
Yeah, and I'll say, despite the fact that our podcasts are about good beers and our adventures through them, if I'm at a bar and all they have is Yingling, I'm drinking Yingling all night. I'm not. Okay. I've known people that if they go to a bar like that, they'll either walk out, even with a group of people, or they'll just sit there and not drink all night long.
Yeah, I'm not quite that, AKA snob, or however you want to put that.
Yeah, I mean, I would much rather drink good beer, but if it comes down to drinking Yingling all night, I'm fine with that. Or, I've got friends in Orlando where when we get together, it's, kind of like a beer pong flip cup kind of a night. And I'm not proud of it, but I'll say screw it and I'll drink Bud Light or Yingling Light or Corona Light all night long. What?
Have you ever had Lone Star?
No, that sounds like something Hank Hill would drink.
Yeah, it's basically what it is. And
it's like Alamo.
Out of the can, I'm just like, no. But one time, I went to this bar. That's all they had on tap. And it was delicious. I'm not going to lie. I was like, this is a really good beer. But that was the only thing I drank. And you know what probably made it more enticing was that it was like 50 cents for a pint. It was something ridiculous like that. I'm like, bring it on.
Yeah, I'm not proud of my times of pitchers of Miller High Life when it's like $2 a pitcher, $3-4 a pitcher, and I'm just like, all right, screw it, I'm getting drunk tonight.
There's definitely been times when I tweet out a picture and we'll be at a bar and Bud Light hits up that with their girls, the girls that always come in there or whatever, they're doing like a promo for whatever reason. They just start handing out all these beers, and like if they hand me 4 beers, I'm just like, well, I'm not gonna not drink them,
Yeah, I'm not so snobbish that I don't like just having some beers and having a good time with friends. So,
but it becomes a thing. Like in that case, I think I was only able to drink like 2 of them before I was like, okay, this is pretty gross.
Yeah, well, okay. So like the thing about those is if they start warming up at all, they just get horrible.
Yeah.
Oh man. So okay. So if we're gonna go down this avenue, I have to talk about it. So there was a commercial. I don't know if it was just a viral commercial or if it was actually on TV. And so those commercials, the Budweiser Up for Anything commercials?
Dude, yeah, those have been coming out on Hulu a lot.
Yeah, well, have you seen the one? I think it was either on John Oliver or it was on The Daily Show, and they were making fun of it. And basically,
what happened?
A couple people go in and they're they're talking to the bartender, and she's like, oh, if you have this Budweiser, something crazy is going to happen, and they're just like, no, I'm good. Like, and she goes, no, really, it's free. Drink it and something crazy cool is going to happen. And they're just like, no, I'm good. And then they just go through the spiel making fun of it. And the best one was one of the guys goes, if a nickel could urinate, that's what Budweiser would taste like.
Oh, man.
And I just had to laugh because I'm like, man, that's actually like a true description. Like,
who thinks of that? If a nickel. Yeah, that's funny.
Oh man, and all their analogies to it and how they just would refusing to drink it. It was, look it up. Like I said, you'll find it on YouTube, and it was a riot.
I'm a big fan of John Oliver and all of them.
Yeah, it was one of those two shows. I forget which, and it was, oh god, it was too funny.
I often thought about that. Like, there's a few of them, like where the girls dancing with Nelly in one of them, and then I'm trying to think. There's another one where it's just like this huge party. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, the thing that bugged me was that one with the Pac-Man. Like, okay, that's so obviously staged. Yeah. Okay, Pac-Man is hard when you're looking at it from the top down and you can see everything. 3-dimensional where you can't see where those ghosts are, that's a lot harder, and he wins it on the first try. I call bullshit.
Yeah. You know what? I didn't even think that. I didn't put that into perspective, but you're totally right.
That's the first thing I thought when I saw it.
What came to mind is that screensaver with all the walls. Remember the brick walls that the mouse was running through, trying to find? And,
yeah, like on an old Windows, like 95, right?
Exactly how it would be if I was playing Pac-Man, like in real life.
Yeah, you have no idea where you're going. You can't see anything. So he's saying that guy had the course memorized and he could know where the ghosts were. I call bull.
Unless there's like a monitor that we don't see. Like maybe it was on a big screen and he was running through the maze and he could look up and be like, oh, I need to run this way. I mean, maybe.
I don't know. It's so scripted. It's bullcrap. But hey, that's whatever. Like I said, it's still, if I'm someplace and if the Budweiser is flowing and it's just a bunch of friends letting their hair down, having a good time, I'll do it.
But watching that commercial made Bud Light taste better in my mouth. No, I'm just kidding. It didn't. Not at all. Jeez. Hey.
Good job, Miguel.
Man. Imported dark English ale. This is one of my favorite dark ales, and definitely one of my go-tos whenever I'm just looking for a nice little subtle dark English ale. I mean, there's nothing. I wouldn't say it's too much of a complex flavor built into it.
Yeah, I mean, any kind of low percent generally is that way, and just ESBs are one of those styles I just haven't. Some styles you try once and you love them. Other ones it takes a little bit of time deciphering it, figuring out if you like it or you don't. And ESBs are one of those ones I've had them a couple of times in my life. I'll go to a bar every now and then and say, you know what? Let me try the ESB. Let me try this beer. 9 times out of 10 with them, I'm just like not impressed. It's just not my favorite style.
Now, just to define ESB for all those millions of listeners out there, extra special strong bitter. That's what you're defaulting to when we have that. I like the description on here. It says Hobgoblin is a blend of smooth, rich flavors from chocolate and crystal malts, refreshing bitterness of English Fogel's hops. Oh, look, there goes my wife. Say hi, Laura. You're on camera.
Oh, hi.
Hello.
Hi. And she runs.
I know you only from Facebook.
I've only known you from Facebook. Come back.
I feel like I know you.
I know you, but not really. And an ale full of mischievous character, and it has a little witch on it. So I guess I didn't realize that this has the hints of the chocolate and the crystal malts, and it's that chocolate that made this one of my less favorite dark English ales, but definitely one of the ones that I would, for whatever reason, default to. I always grab this one with Celebrator. I don't know if you know what if you've ever grabbed the Celebrator. It has a little goat charm on it.
Yeah, I want to say I've seen it.
Yeah, there's a little goat charm on it. For whatever reason, I would always grab those two together because they're kind of like paired up together at the specs aisle. And have them in there. So
I know I've seen it. I don't know if I've had it.
Pours well, definitely not as dark. Nice little head of foam. I appreciate it. It's a nice little calm beer for me that pairs up with just I guess for me I would have this during the day. It's not one that I prefer to have at night. And for me, I like lighter beers during the day and darker beers at night. I don't know why.
Yeah, I mean that makes sense. You want to finish with that nightcap during the day, keep it light so you're not tipsy too soon.
Vehicles.
Yeah. So what was the price point on this? And was it a 4-pack, a 6-pack?
Yeah, now this one was a 4-pack, and this was in the $7 range, so it's a little bit less. You fall
Yeah.
down to.
Now, I mean, it definitely. I mean, I don't know what to compare this to, since we were trying to have a theme of the Pauper podcast. The first two definitely had comparable things, but since I have no idea what would really compare to this, it was just you throwing out a third one, because honestly, I threw those two out, and I had that fun idea for a podcast, and I went, well, damn, I can't think of something else to pick.
Yeah. Well, one of the reasons I defaulted to this was it does have so much of a for me almost like a light citrus flavor to it. I mean, for me, that's what I taste in it, and that kind of paired up well with what we were talking about, the Dirt Wolf earlier, and then also being a dark English ale. I don't know, it's just a good beer, man.
Yeah. Like I said, I definitely plan on looking for it a little harder to try to pick it up again, despite the fact that it'll be after the podcast. But it's one of those, like I said, it's a style I want to like all beer styles. I want to like every single type of beer out there. And there's plenty of beers I'm just not the biggest fan of.
No, so. You say that, and is it? I mean, is it plausible for you to actually like all beers? You know what I mean? I mean, to enjoy all beers.
I mean, I don't know. Like I will say right now, generally wheat beers, like wit beers and anything with wheat, I've tried since 2008. I've tried since 2008 to like them. And to this day, I will still, if someone's got a beer, I'll say, well, let me try it. Colleen, my fiance, generally likes wheat beers a little bit more. I always will say, well, let me try a sip. To this day, I still do not like them. There's something about them. I just can't get into them. And it's rare for a beer style to do that, because generally over time, just between trying different variations, your palate develops, you kind of learn to like certain things. Or maybe sometimes you have that epiphany moment where you find one that you absolutely love. Wheat beers are one that have not done that for me ever.
And it's definitely where I was, but reading about this with the chocolate hints and also somewhat of a toffee feel, I think that's why I also related this to the Rasputin. Yeah, so I'm gonna say different, but it's kind of it has its segue into both of these. How it relates to the Pauper, I don't know. I don't know how to compare this to a more expensive beer, but if somebody out there knows how to compare the Hobgoblin to a more expensive beer, I would appreciate those comments. But
yeah, I'll say part of it too, for me at least, with something like this, is it's a style I tried to get into years ago, didn't really like, and kind of stopped trying.
Yeah, well, my old roommate was into stout. My old roommate was more into stouts and IPAs, and I've always been on the other end with dark ales and porters. That's just kind of like my scene. Definitely with the development of this podcast, I'm pushing myself into learning more about the taste and stuff like that. So, man, you have made me a fan of two beers that I didn't even know really existed, and now I know the titles of them. So
well, that's good to hear. Like I said, Victory. I mean, so if you want another good stout, Victory does one called Storm King. It's another imperial stout. It's a little hoppier. It's more on the hoppy stout spectrum. It's pretty solid though. I'd say give it a try if you liked Rasputin and you liked what Victory is doing, and then if you liked what North Coast is doing with Old Rasputin, check out Old Stock Ale.
Okay, yeah.
Like any kind of old ale or anything like that, you would probably like it.
Well, when I was at Specs, I saw down the aisle a variety of from Victory Brewing, and so I think it helps in my mindset to almost start thinking of beers in terms of their classification by their brewing, because for me, every brewing company kind of has their dark ale, they have their stout, they have their IPA, and once you kind of differentiate between that, you're able to differentiate between the taste. So
yeah, and I mean, when I go looking for beers, I do two things. I look at style and I look at brewery, because if you have a brewery that you know puts out good things, you can either go and get something you've had before, or you go and try something new, trusting the brewery, because you, based on their track record, you say, well, okay, well, Victory has done XYZ, and I know I like all three of those beers. So here's a beer I've never tried before. I know I like the style from other breweries, so let me try this brewery's take on it. So it's definitely a combo of the two, where there's times where I don't know the style at all, but I just will trust the brewery and I'll say, well, let me give it a shot.
Yeah, definitely. I want to look into an IPA from Witchwood, and I don't know. I'm going to look into doing. some more research on that. But I appreciate Hobgoblin for what it's worth and all these other ones.
Yeah. Witchwood is someone I'm not super familiar with because again, they're an import, so they're just not someone I'm familiar with.
We'll definitely learn more of that. But now, any last words on the beers that we've had today? For me, like I've expressed earlier, it definitely pushed me to venture out into some other beers that I've never tried. And like I said, I'm slowly becoming more of a fan of these double IPA, the double IPAs and the stouts and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, my only words to be would say just don't let hype and just basically don't let the hype influence your decisions too much. I mean, a good hyped up beer might be great, but there's so many beers out there that are so easy to find and so affordable. Some people just get caught up in it and don't try what's just right in front of their face.
Oh yeah. That's a good point, man. Now, what are our ideas for our next episode? You were what is it? Sit and sniff. You want to do one of those?
What was it? Sitting with a snifter.
We can hit up some great what is it? The Three Philosophers. I've been wanting to revisit that beer. We can look at some of them.
Yeah, that's a pretty affordable beer. Yeah, let's just think about some ideas for something big. If you, Weyerbacher did a beer of about a month ago, right around when KBS from Founders dropped. Weyerbacher did their own barrel-aged breakfast stout called Sunday Morning Stout. I think that's the name. And it's like a big coffee stout aged in bourbon barrels, or is it whiskey? It's brand new, so I'm not 100% familiar. I still have a 4-pack of it I've been dying to crack into. So if you can find that, that's totally worth it. Super good beer. And I don't know if you've ever had KBS, but
it doesn't ring a bell. But a lot of times when I see the picture, that's kind of when it registers in my head. So I'll be on the hunt for that. I'm going. We're having a baby shower this weekend in my hometown, so I'm going to be passing through San Antonio. And sometimes in San Antonio, they got more of a variety there that I can pick up at some of the stores there. So,
okay, cool. Well, I would say then definitely let's at the very bare minimum, let's aim for Three Philosophers because I do like that. I like a Belgian quad is a good style.
And that is a good beer. And that one was one of the earliest beers that I had that was super bitter for me. And I was just like, whoa. And then you're like barely starting glass number 2 and you're like, yeah, this is pretty strong.
Yeah.
I'd like to look into that one more and the background of that. But now, man, let's go ahead and close this episode up.
Sounds good.
Time again. This was fun. Like I said, I'm learning, and it's research. Research with beer, right? Could you think of a chair? We can get our theme song going up here. Any last words for episode 2, bro?
Nah, that's it. It was a good time, and I'm looking forward to next week.
All right, sounds good, man. I'm assuming you can hear our theme song now, right?
Yeah.
Humpty Dumpty sat on the wall. Humpty Dumpty had a big fall. All the king's horses.
That is
all
not
the
our
king's...
theme song. We're not going with Humpty Dumpty. We're not going to go out that way, bro.
But Humpty Dumpty, man. Maybe he fell over because he was drunk as shit.
That's a good point.
I have fallen over drunk, so it's not unheard of.
Who hasn't?
The worst is when you realize you've had one too many beers and you get to stand up. Or
When's the last time you just researched a little too much?
Probably a couple weeks ago. It was because you're doing when you do really big, strong beers and you're doing it all day and you're having like a big event out of it, man. Sometimes I would have been fine, and then you have that one more beer, and the beer is 12%, and
that's what happened with the Dirt Wolf, man.
but the thing, because it's just so high alcohol, man, it just hits you so quick, and all of a sudden you go, wow. Now, granted, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't not like you're drinking something cheap and you're slamming left and right and getting
totally relate. Yeah,
but
it happened to me Saturday, dude. Yeah,
definitely too much.
Trying out the Dirt Wolves, and I went out to grab this turtle that I found the night before. And I was like, "Whoa, I'm too drunk," so I had to get my wife to help me. I was like, I might have drank 3 beers that were pretty high in alcohol content.
Oh yeah. No, that was me. I was sitting there and I was just doing the head thing, like we were watching.
After that, we went and hit up McAllister's, and I was like, I just need a sandwich and a potato and something very bready right now.
Yeah, that definitely helps.
That's what I need right now. All right, man. We'll get some ideas going, and we'll get next week's. Okay, remind me. Sit and sniff. Is that what we're saying?
Sitting with Snifters was the name.
Sitting with sisters. All right. Yeah, we'll do that for next week. Awesome.
Cool.
Appreciate your time, bro.
Tomorrow morning, Sunday, I'm gonna be feeling low. So please.